you so much. And for more on the game, let's hear from the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Avali. After dropping the first, TSM puts 3 wins back to back together to get this series and move on to the semifinals. Of course, it was already revealed they will be playing against C9 as TL was quick to choose FlyQuest, and we'll dive into those future matchups. Before we get into how this series ended, I want to touch on a few things that were brought up during those interviews. First and foremost, let's talk about Apollo and Echo Fox. I think both what we heard from him and saw in this series today is a great analogy to the entire spring split, which is that it was a 3-horse race for so long and that you did look at the top dogs in the league as really separating themselves, and that for all the teams below them and the few that, you know, kind of slotted into playoffs right at the end, it was about finding that level of consistency to separate yourselves from the bottom 4 and snag that playoff spot. And that's what they did to get here. Now it's about the growth moving into summer split.
And I really like what he said, that he's happy that it kind of ended short because you didn't want to improve so quickly and just like, okay, out of nowhere, Echo Fox wins it all. This is a much better way to digest the lesson where, okay, every bottom team is struggling. Then you get to finally make it to playoffs at the very end. You're like, oh, this is what it takes to be a playoff team. You can take those lessons from spring, apply them to summer from the very start, and then hopefully you can get to playoffs and make it past the quarterfinal round.
That's such a weird statement to say, isn't it? You're happy with being
He's
just a
thankful guy.
quarterfinalist
He's
instead
a
of learning
thankful
how
guy.
to get first? Like, if you have the option of breezing through playoffs to get first, you'd rather pick that than getting knocked out at, like, 6th place, right?
I think that I agree. I agree. I think that is misconstruing his point, right? Which is that in the world where this lesson has to be learned in order for you to get to a playoff picture, like, yeah, you want to learn it now, right?
Okay.
Like, and he's going to look at the bright side of what this series has done for the squad and the players on it, and to Crumbs' point, say, okay, it took us to week 8 to understand what we had to do to start winning and get into that playoff picture. Now, if we can implement that from week 1, maybe we're actually a 4th, 3rd, 2nd, or 1st place team, and we breeze through playoffs come summer. Now, I want to hop on over, though, to the TSM interview and talk about both Broken Blade and Acadian, because for both of these guys, it was their first playoff series in this region. And to some people's surprise, right, especially considering the discussions around third All-Pro team in the LCS, these guys stepped up significantly today.
Yeah, I think you could hear even in the confidence from the interview where Broken Blade's like, yeah, they had a really bad last year, so I'm going to change that. Like, putting it on himself, not saying, like, I'm going to try and do my part, you know, like, really stepping up and being like, put me in the spotlight. I'm going to play well. I played 2 heck-run games at the end. I killed it. I'm the best. Like, I like that attitude out of him a lot, and it's good to see that confidence heading into a very tough semifinal matchup.
And for Acadian, right? I mean, this is a guy who's been in the league for quite some time, has never found himself in the playoff picture, finally has that opportunity to do so, but also has the burden of TSM's terrible 2018, you know? And so what a thing to step into. On top of joining the biggest organization in the country, you also now you're charged with restoring their greatness.
Right, but in that same vein, since you do start at the bottom, quote unquote, and now you're all the way up here, you look freaking good, right?
Yeah, you do.
He's making a story that he deserves to be on the top 3 all-star pro teams, and, you know, if he keeps going the way he is, then I think he might actually be able to.
I want to take a look at how this 4th and final game broke down just a little bit so we can see how TSM wrapped the series up nice and tight. Let's take a look at some early mistakes given away by Echo Fox. As was talked about, Mark, I know this is a point for you. The consistency here and the growth within the series itself being very important.
Yeah, any playoff series is going to be hard fought. There's going to be mistakes going back and forth. In that first game, it was pretty sloppy both ways, but Echo Fox came away with the win. And over the course of the series, TSM gained more and more confidence and started punishing these kinds of plays where people are stepping too far forward and instantly killing and going in on Hakuho. Punishing J4 for not being able to get a good flag and drag. These kinds of mistakes that Echo Fox was making, not being coordinated, EQing in before the TP even starts channeling, if that's even the right ward. These kinds of mistakes, TSM completely stopped doing. They got on the same page and they started to be able to take these fights where, to be fair to Echo Fox, they stayed aggressive throughout the entire game.
You really think Phoenix was aggressive enough, though? Because I feel like at times I would have liked to see him just go all out in the paint. By the way, this is a huge mistake out of Rush, starting the fight by using your flag and drag to check. You immediately lose the fight, by the way, because you don't have that combo, and that's one of the difficult parts about playing Jarvan. Your vision control needs to be so darn good that you can't afford to use those abilities before getting into a fight. So by the time that they already find themselves engaging, they're just scrambling to try to get the dragon.
Well, I actually really like what TSM was doing. They're forcing these fights bot. They saw that play bot. They're like, I want to take this fight. They force Riftfold. I want to fight here. And if you watch Smoothie during all these things as well, he's doing insane plays. The flash combo onto Apollo, and then the 3-man knockup at the Riftfold fight, and then into that fight, giving them priority targets. So it's not like Echo Fox is just making mistakes. TSM is forcing Echo Fox to make these mistakes, or they're just going to lose all these objectives.
Yeah, the vision denial.
Right.
Forcing you to do that.
Both teams started out kind of rocky in this series. TSM started to clean it up. Echo Fox continued to make mistakes. I do think that now it's about looking ahead to the much more difficult opponents that await them in the semifinals in either Team Liquid or C9. We know they're playing C9, but both of those teams, right? Both of those teams, it's about whether or not you think you can protect yourself against those mistakes even more. Can you punish a team that makes less mistakes enough to get a victory?
Can we trust Steve?
we cannot trust him anymore.
Right?
It's just trust completely broken at this point.
I'm looking forward to that matchup between C9 and TSM due to the fact that, Licorice was a rookie last year. He likes playing the Hecarim carry tops, and Broken Blade's coming here saying, I'm going to carry TSM to the victory. And what better way to do that than to beat the top or the #1 ranked top laner in the split right now?
Yeah, I love it. I love that you actually have some top laners who are pulling some stuff out in a meta that can favor top laners, and you're looking at somebody like Licorice to get challenged in the next round. Now, when it came to securing their playoff spot, or rather spot in the semifinals, one player in particular stood out, which is why we're awarding Bjergsen Player of the Series.
I mean, he gets away with being amazing every single year, right? Like, he's away with
What a rascal. There he is being amazing again.
Growing that beard, being the best player in the league,
great
baby.
beard, great player, amazing stats, takes the champion pool, can carry, can play utility. This guy, he's the best mid laner. Like, you really, how can you not love Bjergsen?
And I love how he played this series, being able to early take his champions in the first phase, never really asking for draft priority, and still being the biggest influence in those games. And it helps that he has the team with Sven and Broken Blade, two guys who can put on the big carry shoes, but it's still Bjergsen kind of self-sacrifice to say, I'll take the Lissandra, and you guys will be the carries.
Right. Throughout the series, I was a bit kind of giving to Kaden in the beginning, but in the game 1 and game 4, he didn't look too hot. But when you look at Bjergsen throughout the entire 4 games, even in the loss, he was still good. And that's something that you can apply to him throughout the season. Like, do I ever see this guy feeding or throwing or inting? Not really. I just see him consistently being top tier.
And the idea that he can buy space for his teammates in Champions Select, right? That he can play across so many different styles to enable whatever strategy they want to play in that moment. I mean, what was your approach to playing against this guy? What was your image of Bjergsen versus every other LCS mid laner that you played against?
I would say when I played versus him, I never tried to punish him specifically, especially in lane and or draft. It just would never work out for me. He had too many champions he could play at a high level, and he doesn't tend to make mistakes. But that didn't mean you couldn't beat his team, because he back then wasn't necessarily going to protect his team from losing. He's more concerned about making sure he could hard carry. So I would try to focus my efforts on the other side of the map. But when he's gotten better at that, and his team's also gotten better, it's so much harder to punish him.
And so you think that he's evolved to a point where he's not just looking for those carry moments. He's now diversified his game so he can play the safe way
he
too.
played Lissandra twice. He played Zillion. He early picks his champions. He has a really high warding score. Like, I don't know. There's not much you can say about this guy that would make him be a bad player.
Right, makes sense. That's why we call him one of the best in the game, in the business. For more on their victory, though, Avli is standing by with TSM's owner, Reginald.
Thanks, Dash. I am here with Reggie. Congratulations on the win and moving on to semifinals next week. I kind of want to include everyone else on a conversation we were just having about how this TSM is nothing like any former iterations of the team, and that this is a team that is built to win not only in NA, but almost everywhere else.
Yeah, so, winning in NA is not guaranteed, right? But at the very beginning of the season, when we recruited Tony, and when I had a conversation with Parth, we decided that things really needed to change, because even if you look at all our past iterations or all the championships that we have won, a lot of it is winning because we pick late game comps and we scale and we rely on our North American opponents to play bad, right? And when we go to the international stage, we pick to scale and we pick to you play for late game, and a lot of our games end really early. And what we decided was we wanted to go with a more versatile playstyle, one that will will win if we play well and we execute well, and one that will lose if we don't, right? Whereas in North America, if you look at the win records, most teams that pick stronger late game comps tend to win because their counterparts throw. And it was really difficult for us and really challenging for us because, the first half of the split, we were not a versatile team. We wanted to be, but we couldn't really play well, so we got outscaled and we lost a lot of the games. I do think that moving forward, if we can continue to execute and play really well, we will be able to win in North America and do well on the international stage. And I think with that mindset, we're going to make North America a lot better. I personally think that, like other teams in North America that are still suffering from focusing on like the late game scaling comps, they're going to do really bad on the international stage if they make it. We still have a lot to work with. We need to really improve on that. But I'm overall really happy with what Tony has done to the team. There are some flaws and some mistakes, but at the end of the day, they've really changed the way TSM has played, and we're really a different team, a different organization now.
Now, I'm very excited to see how TSM performs on the international stage. But before you get there, you got to get through semis, and then you got to get through finals. And at the beginning of the day, Steve tweeted that he was going to choose TSM to move into semis, but I think he chickened out because he ended up choosing Cloud9. What do you think of that? Excuse me, FlyQuest.
Yeah, so I think that FlyQuest is actually really, really good. They're a lot better than what they showed yesterday. So there's going to be a tough match there, and it might not necessarily be Liquid that we play if we do beat Cloud9. But personally, for Team Liquid, I do think that was a wise decision for them because they have a lot to work on. They have a singular one-dimensional playstyle, and it's really not going to work on the international stage, and it might not work against FlyQuest if they don't start working really hard to change that.
So then what do you think about your semifinal match against Cloud9?
I think Cloud9 particularly, they did really well against us this season. What you saw in the matches, though, is Cloud9 didn't really do much to punish our mistakes, but a lot of the mistakes that we made by choosing to pick the wrong fights, right? Where you can judge a good team's play is if they force mistakes, if they force another team to be in a position where they're uncomfortable, where they have to make a mistake. A lot of our throws against Cloud9 was when we actually had a big gold lead where we chose the wrong fights, right? So I think it's going to be really challenging for Cloud9 to beat us if we've been playing the way we play. And I do think it's going to really be a tough match, though, because Cloud9 has always been a solid team. They do have the 2-0 record over us. Honestly, I think it's going to be a really hard match, and I have the confidence that we'll win it.
Well, Reggie, thank you so much for your insight and wishing you the best of luck in that match. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Avali. Very interesting look inside some of the thinking and reasoning behind what TSM's been working on this year. Again, citing international aspirations. That's, no different than any other split. But talking about what kinds of strategies are successful domestically versus internationally. Crumbs, what do you think about what he's saying?
I think he's spot on. By focusing entirely on the late game, you are relying on a lot of teams making mistakes for you to get there. Whereas by making sure that you're versatile, that you can play the early game and execute, not only will you be a better team internationally, but I love the point he said, this is going to actually make NA a better team. Imagine in 2 years, every team is now trying to take the same approach that TSM has. All of a sudden, we're no longer a wild card region, baby. We're up there.
I think there's a bit more to that. I think the most important thing is to find an identity that fits your team. Not every team is going to be a dominant early game, and some teams are just amazing end game. You've seen that throughout the course of League of Legends history. There's no one way to play the game. All you really need to do is figure out your 5 players, your coaches, what is the thing that they're best at? You find the meta that you're strong at, the champions that you can play, excel at that, and that's going to be good enough to get to the World Champion stage and good enough to beat a majority of them. Sometimes you'll get a bad matchup, but I think it's wrong to say that everyone should play the same style. I think that's incorrect.
Well, the style is versatility.
I mean, then you can say
Maybe a bit of a cop-out.
You just have to be good at everything, fine.
Mark, get in here.
I mean, to Reggie's point, I think the biggest takeaway is in North America, this split, there were times where you could have picked all late game, and chances are that would have increased your success that game, but would not have set you up for long-term success. So I think that's ultimately the takeaway for me, and to Hai and Crumb's point, is that, yeah, each team is going to have, I'm better on split pushers top than I am at tanks. Okay, work that into your play style, but don't just pick whatever's going to win you that game that day if you have international aspirations.
All right, well, next week we return with the spring semifinal matches where the top 4 will be whittled down to the final 2 heading to St. Louis. It starts on Saturday with Cloud9 versus TSM, and then on Sunday we've got Team Liquid versus FlyQuest. I want to jump right into that TSM Cloud9 matchup because I want to go back to what Reggie was talking about. Their losses to C9 during the split, he believes, is more due to their own mistakes than anything C9 forced on them.
I love it. 2 points. One, the top lane thing that we're talking about, where Broken Blade versus Licorice. What a way to try and make your name in the league is to take down the guy who took NA to World Semifinals. The other thing is I was talking to Niski about playing against Bjergsen, how good he was, and Niski said, I don't care. You know, like, I don't want to win lane. I don't fight for lane. I'll go roam around the map and do all this other stuff. I'm really not concerned about Bjergsen's play style at all. So I love that they're already, like, taking little shots at how they think the other team's going to want to play.
Well, it's true. Remember that game where they had a big lead with the poke composition? They really just overstepped and then, okay, this was not the fight for us. That happened a few times. It really wasn't Cloud9 orchestrating a way to make TSM get ahead and get out of position. So it's true that when you're trying to be a versatile team, where you're trying to punish an enemy's mistakes, you're going to suffer a lot of losses by making sure that you get those rights. You got to do the reps in.
Right, and I think it's much easier to say that than to do that. I don't believe Cloud9 will, get crushed as hard as Echo Fox would. They're going to put up a much stronger fight. Their laners are generally stronger across the board, and their team play and team cohesiveness is much stronger. They can definitely play Jarvan, for example. Right? So,
It's going to be a fascinatingly close series. Let's hop on over to the other semifinal for just a brief moment. Team Liquid against FlyQuest. We'll just remind everyone that FlyQuest went all 5 games yesterday against Golden Guardians, but were able to clean it up. Reggie says that wasn't the best FlyQuest. That wasn't the best version of FlyQuest. So he actually has more confidence in what they could look like against CL. Not saying that they're going to win, but just that they can put up more of a fight. What do you think?
I think he has that confidence because FlyQuest has won with top lane carrying, with mid lane carrying, with turtle carrying, with the jungler carrying. They've shown that all their members can legitimately win games for them, whereas Team Liquid's games have mostly been help double lift. Help double lift. Let Impact do his tank and do his thing. They first pick Yorick, gets smashed. Jensen kinds of farms. Sometimes he carries, but the strategy has mostly revolved around the bottom lane, and that's why they're a little bit more one-dimensional.
Right, but when we see their game, it will have been 2 weeks since we've last seen them play. If anyone that knows that they have problems, it's going to be them, right? And to counteract your point, yes, FlyQuest, everyone can carry, but at the same time, I think a lot of them can throw games, whereas Team Liquid, it's more solid. You won't really see them throwing games. Even when Impact is behind on a carry, he's not necessarily throwing the game. It's just he's not the pillar of the tank that they usually have.
So I want to talk about... Oh, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I want to talk about one specific matchup then, keying on this idea, right? The idea of who on the team is maybe capable of throwing or being the cause of the loss. And the one person for Team Liquid that we've actually talked about during the split is Xmithy, right? 2 of their losses definitely on his shoulders to a degree. And he's across from Santorin, a guy who is out to make a statement this year in the LCS.
Only one to break into the top 3 All-Pro teams that's not on the top 3 team at the end of the regular season. So Santorin not only has a lot to prove just for himself, but also in this matchup, it does feel like if they have any chance, it's going to be on him to exploit Xmithy and how he sometimes gets out of games and falls behind.
All right, well, just a short preview of our 2 big semifinal matchups coming at you next week. After we sign off today, though, the LCS releases the never-before-seen footage that cats and dogs recorded to finally settle which pet should reign supreme. So now for myself, the casters, the entire live broadcast crew, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week for more of the spring playoffs. Good night.
Cats are better.
TSM have gone 11-1 since Acadian created the meme about how swift their wrath will be.
Again, no ult for Solo. He's got to play this around the Kindred. And it's too late! Rush loves the ultimate. Doesn't save his teammate, and TSM grabs first blood. The flash knockup. They go for round 2!
But Echo Fox did the one thing that TSM could not this split. They took down Cloud9.
Hey, come. I almost killed the carry, okay? Hey, I killed the carry, okay? Okay. We need help over here. Okay, I'm coming. Wait. Push mid. Sorry, push mid.
Who gets up Echo Fox? We've got more games to see, but game 1 goes to the underdogs.
This one's gonna be swift, I can feel it.
The only way he can get out of that is...
Oh, that was nice. Perfectly timed knockup, forced the ult out of Rush, but now it's the ult to follow in. Here comes Galio, and Rush is going to be right down. Solo not long for the world. He's slowed. He's taking damage. Acadian, they've got the chase down. They're going to find this kill. Acadian finds his third killing spree.
Jinx. Yeah. No flash Jinx. I'm silenced right now. Ulting myself. We win. Nice, man. Nice. Let's go.
That's a nice pull back right there. Pulls him in. The flash to follow in. The heal, it's not enough. Wants to revive, but he's not going to get to. So keep in mind, Brogla has ult ignite. There it is. Rush is now surrounded. There is not a way out. Broken Blade grabs his third kill of the game.
Looking at Cog.
I'm playing.
Go. Carbo.
Yeah. I got Carbo.
Yeah, he flashed already.
Yeah, I got him.
Can Kog'Maw re-engage? Here comes Bjergsen, finds the stun. In goes Sven. Down goes the Caterpillar. And down goes the rest of Echo Fox.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
They're going to find the burst. 2 kills for Bjergsen. The Drake traded back, but it's still +1 kill. And they're finding even more. They can still get more. Apollo is trying to get away. Oh! Bjergsen finds a third.
I win these. Don't worry. Yeah, he can't dodge my shit. Oh, you're faker.
Oh, doesn't get away with the W. He just got to find someone to run to. Not going to happen. A double kill for Bjergsen. They find that flash pulverized. Phoenix is low. They don't get him just yet. But TSM, you hear it from the crowd. They